I'm Sherilyn Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for working women who are ready to shine. Each week, I bring you ideas, inspiration, and insight on balance, business, and getting it all done gracefully. You ready? Let's be brilliant. This is episode 176 of the Brilliant Balance podcast. And today I'm talking about shoes. Not literal shoes, but the shoes of experience. Because I have really been reminded lately in ways big and small that whatever we're going through, we all really want to know the same three things. First, we're not alone. Second, we will get through this. And third, what on earth should we do? And just hearing the words from someone, I've been there, right? Or I've been in your shoes, or I've been where you are. Hearing those words from someone who is still standing after the experience, it is the most reassuring thing in the world. And I was thinking about why that is, right? Why is it that it's so important to find someone who has been in our shoes? And I think it's because sometimes we truly convince ourselves that we are alone, that we don't know anyone who has been through what we're going through. And sometimes that's even an attractive idea. Sometimes I think on some level, we want to think we are the only one who has been through this, right? It's like in some weird way, it's a reinforcing belief to think we are alone, we're going to stay stuck here. No one has ever faced this before. And so we start to imagine that there is no path forward, that we're really doomed to stay here, kind of scared and confused and very, very alone. And honestly, if we never open up about what's going on with us, then the danger is that we do stay there, that we stay isolated, that we stay confused and stuck. But when we do open up, when we do start to share a little bit just with someone, even if it's barely, then someone can find us. The first person who says, I see you. I've been there. I've been in your shoes. That first person who says that is so powerful. And if we let them, that person really can become our guide. So I want to talk a little bit today about what it takes to find that guide, right? When we know we need one, when something is not working in our life, when something has happened, when we're stuck somewhere, again, in ways big or small, what does it take to find that guide? And I was reflecting on a couple of experiences in my life. We all have them, right? You'll have your own that were times when that was really important for me. And the first one that comes to mind is in my 20s, and I was in some really unhelpful patterns around food and around body image. And honestly, I didn't really have language for it. I had convinced myself one of two things. Either every woman on the planet felt this way, and it was just normal, or alternately, I'd kind of vacillate between these two. I was the only one who felt this way or behaved this way, and therefore there was no help coming. It was either my unique cross to bear, or I was just part of the greater sisterhood, and everyone was dealing with this. And I didn't really have any language for it. And that was a time that I can go back and think about. I wasn't really telling anyone how I was feeling. I wasn't really sharing what was going on. I didn't really have language for it. So I had not clearly defined the challenge or the problem that I was facing. Maybe I just didn't even want to name it, right? I didn't want to give it that kind of power. The second time I can think about was when I had the first of what would eventually be 4 miscarriages. I didn't really know that was classified as an infertility issue. I just felt really alone, and really, my word for it was embarrassed. It wasn't really ashamed. The word I used was embarrassed because we had recently gone public with our very exciting news about expecting this first child. And I just wanted to crawl into a hole and never come out. I certainly didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want people to know. And I definitely didn't want people to know when it happened again and again and again. So I didn't have the framework to know that this was, what to call it at that time. And the story has a happy ending. So I'm going to get into in step 2 in a second here, sort of how you start to move through this part. But there is a third instance when I was reflecting on this where I also felt like I didn't really have great language around it. I hadn't really defined a problem I was facing, and that's more in my business. And I was about, let's say, 5 years into business, 5 or 6 years in, and I had pivoted the business once already. I had kind of a new business model that I was working against. And I really didn't know, this sounds ridiculous, but I didn't know how to find clients. Like I knew what my message was and I had some clients and, we were getting some referrals or people were telling people I had a website, but I didn't really know, for example, what a funnel was, right? So if you know anything about digital marketing, you'll know what a funnel is, much less that I needed one. The whole digital marketing arena, this idea of marketing your business using digital tools was a bit of a mystery to me, even though I had spent 15 years working in sales and marketing. It was such a different industry and universe and approach than what I had been educated in, which was more consumer products marketing and traditional media, that I didn't even really have language around what was the problem I was facing in the business. I just knew I wanted more clients. Hey there, have you heard the news? I am going on tour in 2021, virtually, of course. I am so fired up to talk to a ton of you in 2021, and I would love to add your event to our tour schedule. The topic is something near and dear to my heart. It's work-life balance redefined. So if you're hosting an event, a meeting, a conference, a symposium where this topic would be a hit, let's talk. Dates are available on a first-come, first-served basis, and they are going fast. So head over to brilliant-balance.com/tour and get the wheels in motion. I'll see you on the virtual road. I'm going to take these kind of 3 case studies through this episode. And the thing that changed, the thing that started the winds of change in all 3 of those instances, and where I started to feel better, was when I went to step 2, which is be willing to talk about it, right? In all of those cases, when I dropped the embarrassment, the shame, the worry about what if I'm the only one, and I shared what was going on with someone I trusted, they had names for all of the issues, that I was facing. In 2 of 3 cases, they had been in my shoes. And I can't even tell you how much better I felt as soon as I started talking about it, right? In the case of the food and body image, like that whole spider web of problems, I remember telling my friend that, and this is a very good friend, someone I'd built a lot of trust with, that this was just something I'd already accepted that I'd be dealing with my whole life. I mean, guys, I was like 22. I couldn't even imagine a way through it. I had no idea how good I could feel, right? How much freedom I could have from those thought patterns that I was stuck in and the behavior patterns. And I really shudder to think about where I would be if I hadn't started talking to her about how I was feeling and, what I was doing and what I was thinking. I can't imagine where I would be, because what she did was immediately jumped in with an offer of help, with ideas, and in her case, a stack of books as tall as I was, that started to show me I was actually not the only one. These thought patterns had names. There were other people who had these, and it was mind-blowing to me that someone else would have thought the same thoughts, and had the same perspective. Incidentally, I want to say this, talking about our challenges, our problems, our issues really helps. It turns out we also have to be talking to the right people. because there is this concept called co-rumination, which is where you consistently focus on and talk about the negative experiences in your life. It's kind of like, you might think of it as venting. That can actually have the opposite effect, where you essentially become more stressed out, right? And you're drawing out how long a particular problem might bother you, because it's not a solutions-focused conversation, right? It's more of a venting or technically called co-rumination. So talking to someone who is interested in helping you move through it is a really important kind of piece of the equation. Talking about what I was facing helped me get pointed in the right direction. So in the food-related challenges, it was that stack of books, right, that got me started, and ultimately some work with a great therapist. For the miscarriages, I remember confiding in one friend at work and then actually a second friend at work, both of whom had been in my shoes, which shocked me and gave me the pathway to a terrific infertility doctor who, in our very first visit, became like the second guide. So these two women were guides. They had been in my shoes. They got me to someone who looked me in the eyes and reassured me that I would have a baby. And guess what? I had 3. I have 3 children that had I not found that guide, who knows where I would be. And for the business program, the business challenge I was having of, I had this great idea, I had this concept, I had a program built, I really didn't have a way to get customers to it, to get clients to it. Brilliant Balance would not be where it is today if I hadn't found a great coach who helped me build out our marketing and sales systems, designed specifically for this kind of business in a digital marketing ecosystem. And that has enabled us to connect with thousands of women who can benefit from the programming that we've built. So that kind of brings me to my third point. I'm going to recap what the first 2 were. When you're trying to find someone who's been in your shoes, first, we have to be able to clearly articulate the challenge or the problem that we're facing. We have to admit there is a problem, in other words, right? We have to admit there's something we don't know how to figure out or get ourselves through or handle. Second is we have to be willing to talk about it with someone that we trust, someone that can be the starting point where we start to give voice to the challenges we're facing so that either they can help us directly or they can navigate us to someone who can. And then that third piece is we have to be willing to accept help. And honestly, that sounds so dumb, but also it just isn't as easy as it sounds sometimes. Sometimes it is harder to accept help than it should be, right? Why? Well, it requires us to be vulnerable. It requires us to acknowledge that we are not so completely unique that, no one has ever walked through any part of this pathway before. We have to declare to ourselves, at least, that we don't want to stay stuck, that we want to get to the other side of this. And often we have to invest in getting the guidance and the support that we need. That might be time, it might be money. All of this is worth it. All of it is worth it. The emotional cost, the financial cost, the time investment. Because when we follow those 3 steps, that's how we get to the other side. And so often we get there faster than we ever could on our own. Because that's what a good guide knows how to do. They know how to get us to the other side, right? Because they've been there before, because they can see patterns that we can't see because we are N of 1, right? N equals 1 when it's our own life. But when we're dealing with an experienced guide, an expert in whatever the problem is we're facing, they have an N of many. They can see patterns. They know the tools that work. They know what we need to do. So no matter what problem you're facing, someone has been in your shoes or similar shoes, right? Close enough shoes that they can be of assistance. And I want to encourage you today to find that someone, and to let them help you find your way to the other side. Whatever it is that you are challenged with in your life right now, whatever feels insurmountable, whatever feels scary, whatever feels out of control, someone is out there who has been in your shoes and they can help. Okay? If you are yearning to find that someone, I hope this episode inspires you to take the first brave baby steps to sharing what's going on with you with someone you trust and letting them help you find your way to a good guide. And if you know someone who would benefit from this particular episode because you know they're stuck, you can see it, and you feel like you might be able to help, you might be able to be the first person in that chain, then share this episode. You may be the link that lets her know that she's not alone. That's all I have for you today. I want you to think about that, think about your own life, think about the people close to you, and go be that guide for someone where you can be. That's it for this week, my friends. Till next time, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.